Welcome back to AZ Sports Roundup. Today in this video, we're going to talk about the game that just happened, Kansas State versus Iowa State. It was a good one. We're going to talk about what we can expect from both of these teams moving forward and ultimately what this means for ASU. Cue the intro. So, Iowa State beat Kansas State 24-21 in pretty boring game up until the fourth quarter when both offenses started clicking and then we got a pretty insane finish. So, coming into this game, I always thought it was going to be whichever team has the better quarterback is going to win this game. And I think the reason a bunch of people picked Kansas State was because they expected Avery Johnson to be the better quarterback. I picked Iowa State just because I'm not that high on Avery Johnson. I think he's good. I don't think he's the Heisman candidate that everyone's saying. And I'm higher on Rocco Becht than most people are just because I think he makes the right throws. A lot of people, they're going to say, oh, he had really good receivers carrying him. I don't really think that was the case, and we'll get into why later. But we're gonna dissect some of these quarterbacks and how they played. So Avery Johnson, he went 21 of 30 passing attempts. He had 273 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So a very solid game. These are pretty good stats, if I had to say so, for Johnson. Now we'll go over to Rocco Becht. So he went 14 for 28, which is a 50% completion percentage. Not the greatest. He had 183 passing yards. He had 1 fumble lost, and he had 2 touchdowns. So if you just look at the numbers, look at the stats. I spelled Johnson wrong, I'm sorry. Let's just do that. So if you were to look at the stats, look at the numbers, Avery Johnson was the better quarterback. And I'm just going to tell you, these stats kind of lie just a bit. So Kansas State had 2 pretty big touchdowns. Jace Brown, who had a 38-yard touchdown in the start of the fourth quarter, and Jaron Bradley, who had a 65-yard touchdown. So these were 2 of the worst Iowa State plays on defense the entire game. For Jace Brown, there was a linebacker in coverage. Jace Brown did a little move. The linebacker thought he was running an in. Jace Brown would turn upfield, no safety help in the area, wide open, touchdown, ball right on the money. Good throw by Avery Johnson. That was a touchdown. The Jaron Bradley one, what happened was he just got behind the entire defense. He was wide open. They didn't do a great job in coverage. Bradley gets behind them. Good ball. Bradley can run for a touchdown. So all of these added up. Let me do some quick math here. That adds up to 103 passing yards. And if you take Avery Johnson's original total of 273, subtract that by 103. Oh, it did let me solve it. You get 170 passing yards. And this might not make any sense, but basically the whole point of me doing this math is without these big plays, Avery Johnson would only have 170 passing yards, which if you look back at Rocco Becht is less than the 103 passing yards that he had. And I think Rocco Becht, what he did in the end of the game, what he did in the fourth quarter, coming in clutch in the big game at the big moment, what he did is why I think he had the better game. We're going to talk. So the thing that concerns me, I know that they won, but the thing that concerns me just a little bit for Iowa State is the receiving game. So their top receiver was Brett Eskildon. He had 3 receptions, 46 yards, and 1 touchdown. And he had the touchdown that he got, he had a great route, beat the corner in coverage. Rocco Becht throws a laser in the end zone, one of the greatest passes from him I've seen. So the next leading receiver is the tight end Benjamin Bramer. He had 2 catches for 41 yards, 0 touchdowns. He had a great game. I think he's one of the better tight ends. I don't know. Is there like a way I can zoom out? I think I wrote these a little too big. I'm just going to rewrite this a little smaller. The third best receiver in this game, this is going based off of receiving yards. That was Gabe Burkle. He had 3 catches for 31 yards. And lastly, we have Dominic Overby, who I think had a great game. He only had 2 catches, but the redshirt freshman who only had 1 catch last year, I was impressed with what he did. He had that touchdown early. He had 2 catches for 29 yards, and of course, that touchdown. So, why am I saying this? It's not because of the production that this has. It's more of the lack of production that I'm pretty sure if you follow the Big 12, if you follow Iowa State, you know they got 2 pretty sought-after receivers in the transfer portal, Xavier Townsend and Chase Sowell from UCF and Virginia, respectively. Both of these guys had a combined 0 receptions. So that is the thing that worries me because, yes, Eskildon and Overby, they stepped up, but I think they need the production of Townsend and Sowell if they want any chance of winning the Big 12. Because I think if you look at their potential, I think they could replace Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. And yes, that is a tough task, but I do think they could do it. 0 catches, 0. It is week 0, and they still could change this. I feel like the common thing is to overreact. So I'm just going to say take all this with a grain of salt. They could go off with a pair of 2 touchdowns each, but they need to get going. I was hoping to see some production early. That did not happen. Maybe if Eskildon and Overby step up to be the players that Townsend and Sowell were supposed to be, maybe it'll be fine. But I think Townsend and Sowell really need to step up if they want to compete in the Big 12. And now we're going to move on to the running game. So they had a very interesting approach to the running game. They have 2 running backs. I'm just going to write their names. Carson Hansen and Abu Sama. So Carson Hansen, he played the first quarter. On that first drive, Iowa State wanted to establish the run early. That didn't work. Carson Hansen, he did not do the best in that first quarter. He ends up not playing quarters 2 and 3. This is where Abu Sama would get the most of his work. Not all of this was in the second and third quarter because he did play in the first quarter, but he had 14 carries for 43 yards. It's all right. And then we get to the fourth quarter. They finally scored, but neither running game is established. And what Carson Hansen did is the reason why I think Iowa State won the game. So he had 16 carries for 71 yards. Let me pull up his receiving stats. So he had 2 receptions for 19 yards. Most of that came from the huge 4th down play that won Iowa State the game. Ever since the fourth quarter started and they put Hansen in the game, they were rolling. They established the run, which neither team could do, mainly because Dylan Edwards, he did go down with an injury. I think Joe Jackson played fine, but Carson Hansen, he finally established the run. They were moving, and then finally Rocco Becht, he gets a touchdown by himself. And I think Carson Hansen, what he did, that won the game. They've been trying to establish the run, and it finally worked with Carson Hansen. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because in my mind, I think Carson Hansen is a little bit better than Abu Sama, but they did have relatively the same amount of carries. I wonder if they're going to keep this running back by committee, because I don't think Hansen played in the second or third quarters at all. and it was only Sama, and then I don't think Sama played at all in the fourth quarter. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Maybe if Carson Hansen has a few more good games like this, he's the true RB1. It'll be interesting to see what Iowa State ends up doing. But enough about these two teams. Let's talk about what this means for ASU. So, I went into this game not really rooting for anyone, and that was until I got a text from JT saying, yo, we should root for Iowa State. Here's why. ASU and Kansas State don't play each other. Kansas State and ASU play Iowa State in the regular season. Just hear me out. Say Arizona State beats ISU. Kansas State, they already lost to Iowa State. Arizona State gets the head-to-head tiebreaker. And this, maybe if we're looking at an at-large spot, this is what would potentially be on the resume. So, 24-21 was the score of Iowa State and Kansas State. What if ASU goes into Iowa State and blows them out? Let's just say 42-14, ASU winning. This is going to have some resume because not only did they beat Iowa State, sorry for the horrible handwriting, handily, Iowa State beat Kansas State, which means ASU is better than Iowa State because of the head-to-head, and they would also be better than Kansas State because of this thing that I just laid out. This is all subject to change because, like ASU, they improved mightily. I do think that could happen to any of these teams in the Big 12. Anything can happen on any given week, but I think Iowa State winning is good for ASU, and I know the Iowa State game is further down the road, but this team, I know they got a gutsy win, but this team looks a lot more beatable than I thought they were. So, the major elephant in the room if ASU had to go up against Iowa State, the major elephant in the room for Iowa State is their offensive line. They did improve, but in the first half, they were getting destroyed. Kansas State's defensive line could do whatever they wanted at the line of scrimmage, and it did get better in the fourth quarter, but I think if we have Prince Dorba, Justin Watley, CJ Fight, Clayton Smith against this unit, I think that Rocco Becht, who did do well trying to evade the pass rush, I think he's going to have a hard time. And I think that our receivers match up well against their secondary. They got beat by Jace Brown and Jarrett Bradley on some big play touchdowns. I think we could see more of that with Jordan Tyson, Jaron Hamilton, Malik McClain, Jalen Moss, so many guys I can mention. I think ASU matches up very well against Iowa State, even without Scadaboo. Iowa State and Kansas State, they look very beatable. Like, I look at this Arizona State team, I look at how they played, and I think we're clearly better than both of these teams. Even Iowa State, who had a fourth quarter surge. So that's it. I know all of this is subject to change just because it's week 0. Technically, college football hasn't really started. There's a 12-week season, and I'm here just sitting down on a desk overreacting to a Big 12 game played in Ireland. But this is just my initial breakdown of the game. These teams could surprise me. Maybe Iowa State blows ASU out. I don't know. But this is just what I think after the game. So thank you for watching this episode of AC Sports Roundup. If you haven't heard already or haven't seen, we just put out a documentary. And it's probably the biggest project we had on the channel. We just finished it up. It's a 5-part series. We have a playlist if you want to binge watch them. Thank you for those that did watch that. We gained probably a total of 50 subscribers, which is a lot for our channel. I think our first video got something like 1.5k views, which is our second most in the history of the channel. And Thank you for the support. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It'll be totally worth the time. Thank you for watching this episode of AZ Sports Roundup, and see you.